If you strip away the Hollywood noise, World War II was not just a clash of armies. It was a war fought inside kitchens, stairwells, basements, alleyways, and quiet rural homes. Ordinary people, many with no formal military background, were forced to think defensively every single day. They learned how to protect families, hide resources, slow enemies, and survive prolonged uncertainty. What makes these home defense tactics so valuable is not nostalgia. It's the fact that many of them were born from scarcity, constant threat, and the assumption that help might never arrive. That mindset alone is something modern people have largely lost. Today, when we talk about preparedness, we often jump straight to gear and technology. During World War II, defense started with planning, discipline and environment control, long before weapons entered the picture. That is why these forgotten methods still matter, and why they still work. One of the most important lessons from World War II civilian defense is that protection was never a single action. Homes were defended in layers, even when residents had nothing more than basic tools. The first layer was distance and discretion. Families avoided drawing attention to their homes by controlling light, sound, and movement. Blackout curtains were not just about air raids. They prevented silhouettes, routines, and interior layouts from being visible to outsiders. Today, the same principle applies. If someone can study your habits from the outside, your home is already compromised. A modern adaptation is as simple as managing exterior lighting, avoiding predictable routines, and limiting what can be seen through windows at night. Defense begins before an intruder ever reaches a door. The second layer was delay. During the war, even simple obstacles mattered. Furniture was placed strategically behind doors, staircases were narrowed, and entry points were made awkward rather than impenetrable. The goal was not to create an impenetrable fortress, but to slow movement and force, noise and effort. In practical terms today, this could mean reinforcing door frames, arranging heavy furniture in ways that restrict straight-line movement, or using interior layouts to create choke points. Time was life during World War II, and delay bought time to escape, hide, or respond. Weapons were rare for civilians in many occupied regions, which forced people to think creatively about space control. Narrow hallways, stairwells and doorways became defensive assets. World War II resistance manuals emphasized forcing any intruder into predictable paths where they could be heard, slowed or confronted. This is still relevant. A home with open, unobstructed lines allows faster movement for anyone who does not belong there. By contrast, a space that forces turns, changes in elevation or tight movement gives the defender awareness and advantage. A practical application today is, understanding your own floor plan as a defensive tool. Take a walk through your home at night with the lights off and notice where sound carries, where footsteps echo, and where visibility drops. Back in WWII, civilians memorized these details because, they couldn't rely on alarms or cameras. Knowing how your environment behaves under stress, now that's a form of defense that requires no technology at all. One of the most overlooked WWII home defense tactics was, interestingly enough, deception. Civilians learned to make their homes appear abandoned, already searched, or just not worth anyone's attention. Broken furniture, placed intentionally, a bit of controlled disorder, and even false signs of poverty. These were all pretty common in occupied territories. The main idea was to redirect attention elsewhere. Today, this translates into not advertising what you have. Overly visible security systems, expensive equipment, or obvious stockpiles can, believe it or not, make a home a target rather than a deterrent. Deception can also be internal. During air raids and raids by occupying forces, families practiced silent movement and misdirection inside the home. Children were trained to move without speaking. Doors were opened in ways that minimized sound, and signals were agreed upon ahead of time. In modern preparedness, this becomes family coordination. Establishing silent signals, pre-planned responses and movement rules during emergencies is directly inherited from these wartime practices. WWII civilians assumed things would break, be taken or fail. Redundancy was not optional. Multiple hiding places for food, documents and tools were standard. No single cache contained everything. This mindset applies directly to modern resilience. If all your critical resources are in one place, you are vulnerable to a single failure. Distributing supplies, knowledge and access points reduces risk. Improvisation was equally important. Households repurposed everyday objects for defense, signaling and concealment. Heavy fabric became sound dampening. Simple wedges secured doors. Ordinary household items were adapted to create early warning systems using noise and vibration. The lesson is not to romanticize scarcity, but to understand that adaptability matters more than specialized equipment. Knowing how to repurpose what you already own is a skill worth developing. Despite popular myths, WWII survival often depended on cooperation. Neighborhoods shared information, watched patterns, and warned each other of danger. Informal networks were faster and more reliable than official channels. Applied today, this means knowing your neighbors, establishing communication methods, and sharing situational awareness. Isolation feels safer, but history shows that coordinated awareness is more resilient. The enduring value of WWII home defense tactics is that they assume uncertainty, limited resources, and human behavior under stress. They focus on habits, awareness, and environment rather than hardware. That is why they still work. Technology changes, but human psychology does not. If you found this breakdown valuable and want more deeply researched, no-nonsense history like this, subscribe to Iron Age Instincts. Share this with someone who understands that real preparedness starts with knowledge, not gear.